I'd call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Let me double check the microphones.
Yep.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting.
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the agenda for today's meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The agenda is approved. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the minutes from the March 18th regular meeting.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the March 18th regular meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That the vote was unanimous. Announcements of email votes. Stuart?
Yes, on May 10th, the board unanimously voted online to adopt the edits for the new candidate application. It's now available online. I'm going to ask anybody that's interested in running for your board of directors to go online, download that application and submit it. It was all passed unanimously, by the way.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, president's remarks. I have two. Number one, I'd like to recognize Gary Greenberg on his passing. Gary served on the board of directors from 1992 through 1994 and was the president of the association in 1994. So condolences to his family and prayers on his passing. I just wanted to be recognized for his service to the community. The second item I have is Rick Farr has been elected to the Worcester County Memorial Veterans Association Board of Directors. He'll be serving there and just wanted to congratulate him, recognize him. Call for president's remarks. John, GM report.
Thank you, Doug. Just start off with the first pages. I'd like to start some pictures, just shows Ocean Pines. You can see the cherry tree blossoms. They've been in blossom. The end for each year we do. And I think over the years, it'll just be a really nice trail there. Page. Okay, so these are the initiatives for today. Everything that I'll talk about in addition to the financials. But everything here is basically, if I was to summarize it, we're addressing staffing. We're addressing the maintenance and all the maintenance we're doing throughout Ocean Pines, the infrastructure, what we're working on down at the marina, the proposed racket sports building. And if you notice there on the left, we did put some diagrams, some sketches that I'll talk about in a little while that we're going to sit down or we'll give to the committee. Turn the page. The marina dock, well, pictures are worth 1,000 words. So as you know, I've come to the board approved. We had to redo all the pipes, all the gas lines. It's in progress. You can see on the left there, taking out the old dock. Middle is putting in the new. It was all fabricated. The top middle picture there is showing you how we'll get to all the gas lines. A lot of work involved there and where the structure is on the right. So we're on track to be done May 1st. The total project's about $500,000. And at the end, we will have all new pipes, all in regulation and all requirements. Something that needed to be done, and it's on track. All approved. Page. All right, the police department. This is where I'm talking about staffing. As you know, if you were at the last board meeting, the last board meeting, the board approved the pension equivalent, as well as we've increased pay. We've had the cruisers. The good news with this, with all this and everything else, and we did implement a new process for testing. Testing is we get the applications from possible police candidates and we test them before they go to the academy. Everybody else has had success with it. We certainly have. What's come out of this with all this is, if you look around the middle of the page, we have 3 top candidates that have been presented to Lieutenant Toppin and have been submitted for July 5th to the academy. I'm excited about this. I know everybody in the police department as well as the board. We also added this, We have a potential dispatcher, somebody that we can bring on board and possibly go to the next academy. So this is the best I've seen in 5 years, and I think it's positive going forward. We're definitely competitive in compensation and moving in the right direction. Thank you to the board. Thank you to Ocean Pines. Turn the page. Aquatics. So as we go on with maintenance, the roof at the racket sports was in the budget for this year. It was in for around $28,000. The cost to put it in turned out to be about $29,200. It's completed. There's a picture. Everything's positive on it. Turn the page. Next, lifeguard hiring. So as I mentioned also on staffing, and just like the police, and if you followed the budget, we got approved. We put increased pay in there. We're paying for training. We have somebody, Kathleen, who's excellent, as well as her team. So we're looking for some good results there. Obviously, for the winter, as I mentioned, we were able to staff, but I believe we're moving in the right direction. It is our goal. It is our goal is to keep these pools open. We'll do our best on that with the resources we have. Turn the page. Also, will get some feedback last year, even though we communicated it and was a list of a page and a half of communication. Needed to do more up front, and we are doing that. Let's talk golf. Well, you just look out the window, or you are a golfer. You can see the course has been the best shape that it's been in the 15, 18 years I've been here. Credit to the team, credit to everybody. What I do want to say here is this, and I'll take it a little out of from the financials, but if I look at the last 6 months of golf, what I'll call the Bob Beckelman era. Bob came in October. And I look at those numbers and I compare them to last year, same 6-month period, just golf, and I look at the revenue's up 15%. Now, granted, they're not our busy season, but it's up 15%. That's about $45,000. At the operating profit line, it's up $36,000 over those 6-month period, ending in March. 60%. Those big numbers. I'm looking forward to the summer. I know this team down here we're ready. All the maintenance has been done. We just need good weather. The outside play started. Yesterday, this place was packed. The grill, I was talking to Judy in the grill this morning. She's seeing big numbers coming in. Turn the page. Racket center manager. The gentleman there on the right is Tim Johnson. He was just hired. The job description that we put out there and obviously filled with Tim. I know Debbie was down there the other day, and I'm not sure if we're going to have some more introductions, but Tim is on board. The job description for this was basically adopted from all the guidance that us received from the Racket Sports Committee. I know they wanted somebody certified in lessons. This gentleman is. I know they were concerned that we put on the job description high school diploma. This gentleman is college educated. He also has a JDA. He also apparently has background. He told Debbie, told me that he's been here at Racket Sports. So some of you may already know him. He's eager to give lessons and brings a wealth of professional experience to the position. So we went out there, and we got everything that the committee, everything from paddleball, everything from tennis, pickleball. We found this gentleman. I'm excited about it. I know there's some emails floating around for some reason. They want to know how much we paid him. We paid him what was in the budget. We paid him what we advertised. He also gets a percentage of his lessons. No different than what they do down here at golf. On the page, I could set the maintenance. I'm not going to go through everything each week. There's a lot. The list just keeps growing, but we are addressing it. Just look back at every board presentation I do. If you want to go through it, I'm not going to go through everything here. It's a long list, and least list. As I get it completed, we get it completed, I receive a new list. We're on it. We did do some landscaping down there. The same type of landscaping that we did here at the golf course. It was well received here at the golf course. It was rearranged at the Racket Center, but I'm hoping everybody's happy with it. Turn the page. All right, so Racket Center design. So I have been talking about this. I did meet with the committee over the couple of years, talked to them about what exactly they were looking for. We just put the two diagrams of the outside. If you look on the left there, it was hard for us to do it right now, but we have also diagrams, high-level sketches, designs of just something so that we can give to the committee committee can start looking at, and they can start giving their feedback or talk about. So at least you have a working document that we can go on. So the top left there is if it was a one-story building, and on the right is a two-story building. If you look at the plans that are here on the easels, there is a wraparound deck. Some of the feedback I've received from some is that they want to be able to watch tennis or pickleball or paddleball from there. So it was designed in there. Again, these are high level. This is to be a working document. Us had success with this clubhouse. This is how we started here. We brought it in under budget and basically did everything that everybody asked for within reason. We also took the same approach with the firehouse, and hopefully we come forward next month with that. We have very detailed diagrams, drawings that we've been working with the fire department with. And if you just take where we are now, and I know Steve's here and we're going to save it for next month, what we have now and what we would utilize those drawings with and looking at contractors already, I think we have a really good idea. You'll see a big difference from when we first had that town hall, I don't know, a year or two ago. Certainly the number and everything else that I believe, yes, Steve, I want to make sure the fire department's real pleased. But I point out here and shout out to is Frank Brown. Frank Brown is the chair of the golf committee. Frank has been there for me for Ocean Pines. I reached out to him for sketches for this clubhouse, reached out to him for the firehouse. I'm not even going to look at Steve, but I know Steve and Dave would agree. He worked with them. The diagrams we have will certainly save us money. And we're using those diagrams as we sit down with contractors trying to get estimates so that when we come forward, we're pretty much in the ballpark. I want to do the same thing here. I want to give these diagrams to the committees at Racket Sports, get their feedback, sit down with Frank and adjust accordingly. And it'll probably be several takes, just like it was with the firehouse. We've had success with it. Hopefully this is what you're looking for down there. Turn the page. Trials. I want to read this. So, you know what, Debbie, can you help me out? You want to jump in? What? I'd use that.
Okay. Sorry. So we made some changes based on growth of the racket center. And in the past, we had 14-day trial, free to non-members and free lessons. It has been a must be, as it was advertised, it must be consecutive days for 14 days. And that had come after a 30-day free trial, as last year we, kind of said, all right, maybe not 30 days, let's cut it back a little bit. And we made it 14. So this year we're looking at no free court time, being able to charge for lessons, although there are 2 clinics that are offered in April and in May that are still free for new people, non-members, to kind of learn the sports and decide whether they would like to purchase a membership. Including any of the racket sports offers extended play. So no other amenity really gives anything away for free. We have certain situations. So like at the golf course, as it says, no free lessons, nor do the amenities. I can't see past that. I'll look.
Yeah.
So there's no free lessons, nor do the amenities tie up the golf course. Amenities are, Kathleen, I'm going to speak for you for just 1 second. Some of the things that we are addressing in the conversation is that there's a misunderstanding as to what we give away for free and how that works. One of the things that was stated is Aquatics gives away free trials the same. Now, as far as the racket center and the 14 hours of membership play, yes, we do have membership play because pickleball is an indoor and an outdoor sport. Excuse me. Same as platform is an outdoor sport and plays year round as well. If you are not a member, you do pay to play indoors. And if you come in on any other time that is not a scheduled pickleball time, it is considered a drop-in, and even a member will pay to play drop-in in the rec department indoor for indoor play. as far as aquatics is concerned. The reason that they may, on occasion, give a free time is to distinguish what works best for the customer. So they have different classes. It does not pertain to any equipment class. So if it's a treadmill or a trampoline class, that does not pertain to those classes. However, if it's yoga compared to creaky joints, there may be a reason why we need to let her figure out, or him figure out, which class he needs to be in. One may be more higher impact than the other. And we give them the opportunity to say, yeah, that's not for me. I need to go back, or vice versa. That's a little bit too slow impact for me. So I need to go to the next level. And that's a one-time courtesy that we give them in order for them to find their place. And then they sign up for which class is best suited for them. And that's as Kathleen said, as ambassadors for Ocean Pines, and I love the word that she used. It is our job to figure out where they need to be placed and what's best for the customer, and to be able to give them that right spot so that they can, buy that membership and continue to come back. But it is a one-time courtesy that she gives on occasion, not all the time. You want to fill in the?
Thank you, Debbie. Also, Kathleen's here. And before I summarize at the end, I have Kathleen and Bob here also to help address the emails I received over the weekend. Kathleen, anything else you want to add on aquatics? What we give away
No,
for
just
free?
if you come as a resident and you want to try a class, it is our policy that you get to try it again. It's our desire. I always tell people when they come in, it's like when you buy a gym membership in January, and then in July, you just really feel as if that you just, we're not spending your money wisely. So we encourage people to come in, be able to take one trial class. The value to that, as a resident, is a $7 value. And then let them assess if that's the appropriate class. More often than not, it leads to a registration, and it leads to a long-term customer that's very satisfied with the aquatics department. I also want to make it very clear that we do not give free swim lessons.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathleen. Bob, I see you in the back there, and Bob and I were talking this morning, and we've done a lot with golf. Bob, what I have to address, and I received in a lot of emails, is they also say there's free putting here, there's free golf or whatever. Can you just clarify that for everybody?
Yeah, as far as the putting goes, the putting greens here, we have one in front of the clubhouse and then one down the other end of the driving range. It's not a revenue source. We don't charge anyone to use the putting greens. I don't think there's a course in the world that charges to use the putting green. But basically, it's not a revenue source. You can use it as they like, as long as the space is available. And some of our lady members got together and started a putting club, and they got together and did some putting in the afternoon. Doesn't affect our revenue or play anyway.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah. Okay, and so in summary, so I did receive, as I believe they were sent to the board, I was copied or whatever. I saw one email, I think somebody sent it to me, I wasn't copied on, at the GM, taking any action or anything. I just want to make it clear to everybody, just like everything else since I came in here, whether it was golf when I first got here, and we know how golf was, we know how the financials were, the DMA study, our fixed assets, replacement, drainage, ditches, mailboxes, roads. I could keep going. We've addressed everything. I thought we were addressing racket sports. We put new pickleball courts. We renovated. Renovated the fences. We've been maintaining. We allocated a full maintenance person there. I got a list of every week or whatever that we address. So this did come across when we did the budget. Debbie came to me, talked to me about it. Obviously, we just didn't like check a box or whatever. We all spoke. We all looked at all this. We hired somebody that Racket Sports asked for, a certified professional to give lessons. We did that. So now this came up, and certainly we're here, and I'm here, and I'm listening. I read all the emails, received 2 or 3 a day. Actually, they were sent to the board. Some I was copying on or whatever. I'm not sure if you put to the directors and then put me, if you're talking to the people above me or me, but I will address them. I addressed them with the board. I answered all questions any of them had, any detail, as well as I am here today. Not totally sure what else on there. I Read all the emails, and quite honestly, they look templated. They're basically all the same. I think today I've assembled the subject matter experts in all the history and detail to answer all those questions. I'm not sure whatever else from my end, but I certainly do, and I will certainly march to anything the board tells me. I'm also not totally sure if it's within the authority of the GM to give away free amenities, whether it's golf or anywhere else. If it is, somebody has to inform me. We'll certainly work with everybody with lessons or anything else to try to engage the sports. That's all I got on it. Next page. Thank you, Debbie, Kathleen, Bob. Rec and Parks, again, I put a lot of detail in, and I do want to do a shout out to Michelle Ross, who basically has put a lot of effort, and Linda and everybody else, into these slides. And certainly be on a day like today. So we're putting a lot more detail. I'm not going through all of it, although I spent a little extra on that, but it was needed. But there's a lot of programs going on in Rec and Parks, a lot of feedback we received, that Debbie received and her team, a lot positive on all the stuff goes on up there. So it's all good. You can read about it, get positive feedback. Turn the page. Okay, so keeping with what I said about maintenance, the landscaping, obviously, pictures, like I said, say 1,000 words. I think there's some nice stuff over there at the bridge. We're doing other stuff throughout, the cherry trees. They're mulching. I mean, I put an addendum in to list. I'm not going to go through it today. All the mulching and all the care at all the parks that we have. The tractor trailers are coming in. The mulch is being dropped off. I got people. We have outside landscapers working for us because we don't have the manpower trying to get it done. The next step after this is the trails. I know there's somebody here big on the trails. We will also address that. Everything getting addressed. Feel free to read all the stuff. Send me emails or info points if I missed something. Okay, I do want to. I want to talk about one of the biggest outside contractors we have, is the Mad Art Company, and I think it's a good time for me to talk about where are we today with Matt and his team. I mean, I can tell you this: the grill in there is hopping. Yacht Club was hopping Thursday night. I was over there, took a peek. I got some good feedback. The Tiki Bar the other night, Thursday night was packed. But here's where we are. I know people are asking me, where are we with the Mad Art Company? Well, just some quick facts on this. The original contract was executed August 14, 2019. It was one of the first things I worked on. It was a 3-year term on contract with a 4th and 5th year added if year 1 and year 2 combined operating profit targets were achieved. They were achieved. I'm listing here what the goals were. The gentlemen, that team, they met it. So what does that mean that they met that? Well, based on the measurable results achieved, I'm down at the bottom bullet point. Per the contract and the contract amendment, the term of the contract has been extended. Year 4 will be for fiscal year 23-24, and year 5 will be 24-25. So we're in the 3rd year, pretty much closing it up. And I can tell you this, with their numbers for this year, they're pretty much on budget. They've beat the budgeted numbers that we have. And each year, what our goal is to constantly increase, and we're certainly doing that. And remember, COVID was thrown at them and a lot of other stuff. We've been lucky with the weather. That's all I got on the Mad Art Company. If there are any questions on that afterwards, if anybody has anything. All right, so with that, I'm going to turn over to Linda Martin, who's working on the mailboxes. That's another big project, but she has a lot going on there.
Okay, mailboxes. Public Works started back on the mailboxes after administration renovations. There were a few more that were done, mostly the pedestals. We're still confirmed with the postmaster to get the other ones scheduled, but everything that's on the chart there in yellow have been done. Everything else is in the remainder of what is going to be done. That was budgeted for last year. Triple Crown mailboxes, that's a new development. They have been ordered. We're going to be putting in the mailbox cluster, pedestals, concrete pad, and doing the paving. Okay, CPI violation dashboard for March. 68 violations initiated, 21 were maintenance trash, 1 dangerous tree, 16 no permit, and 30 miscellaneous. Now, miscellaneous does include violations for placement, screening, signs, stop work orders, tents, trailers, unregistered junk vehicles, and vehicle parking. To break it out, since it's been a hot topic, 61 violations were initiated for trash cans alone in March. We have 13 still open. The other ones have been complied out. And for junk vehicles, 54 violations were initiated and we still have 10 open. That does include the ones in legal. So we are working on it. I did break it out as well to safety wise. So we know that the maintenance trash, that is a health and a safety issue. For the 64 complied out, 156 remain open. That's 50 in legal, includes 50 in legal. But we had a, someone corresponded with us saying that we were picking on the north side. If you notice, there's 73 violations in the north, 83 in the south. And so we are equal opportunity violator. Okay, moving on to work orders for March. 86 work orders were initiated, 65 were complied out. We saw 95 average. The majority are open in drainage, 42, but they are compliant amount. A few that are open in 60 days past due. And moving on to customer service. Customer service, we had 109 total, general or amenities. So we are picking up in customer service. So just a reminder to email info@pines with any questions.
Thank you, Linda. All right, so addendum, I'm not going to go through this, but I mentioned it for those that like to get into this kind of detail. It shows you all the maintenance we're doing there. And like I mentioned, next stop will be obviously the trails. In outside contractors, we're working on that. Check with our teams. We hope to free them up and then we'll get on the trails. And then basically everything's been pretty much done for the spring. Turn the page. You can go through this. Go to financial.
Done.
Yes.
This is pretty detailed. Is there any way we can get this information up on the website so the membership knows that
Absolutely.
the kinds of things are happening at the?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Financials. So the financials in our accounting department, 13th workday is the benchmark or the goal. So the 13th workday is not as of yesterday. Steve and his team put together a flash for me. I've done this before. We've done this before. We've always come in with some type of numbers. So for March, if you go back and look at last month's, and I'll go back at February's numbers and highlight, but basically what I said last month, we were favorable. But I said that a lot of expenses, a lot of maintenance didn't hit and they would hit this month. So you can see right there, you can see if you go down to expenses are up and we're pretty much flat for the month, which is pretty darn good. So we're flat for the month. It's kind of easy. I'm supposed to present the favorability and unfavorability, and I will do on the next slide. Basically flat. And a lot of the expenses came in or the work got done this month versus last month. And as you saw from everything else that I put out there, there's going to be more expense coming. Flat, turn the page. Okay, so this is where the detail came. Obviously the police all year I've been reporting favorability. We are short on the police department. We do have overtime that's kind of eating into, not that there's a problem with that. We do came out with the favorabilities on the benefits. For the benefits, the medical and all that, since we're paying for overtime, we're not paying for those positions is where you're seeing some favorability there. I do have some costs that still haven't come in yet. I have not accrued for them because I'm not sure yet. But in April, you may see that come down. Public Works is favorability there. There are some open positions. There are a lot of stuff is coming due this month. One of the reasons for that favorability is the Public Works team did a lot of work on infrastructure. A lot of it was replacement. So some of it, we had that as operational and it winded up being part of replacement. So everybody was fully engaged, work was happening, but it happened to be replacement versus, it wasn't a lot. Food and beverage is favorable. Not sure what else to say there. You know, we need good weather, just like golf. General maintenance, right? I talked about that. The expenses came in this month. Golf ops and maintenance, I'm going to call this timing. We had some extra labor. We had some extra chemicals. Probably the offset will be this month, but he's on track for budget. And I got to tell you, I mean, the course is looking great. Rec and parks, a lot going on there. I pretty much explained it. The rest is other. Bottom line is it comes down that we're flat for the month. So in summary, let me just go back to February. We won't have year-to-dates because it's a flash, but February, we were favorable, $1.1 million. The estimates, the guidance Steve and myself were given to everybody was somewhere in that ballpark. for the 12 months. So we're 11 months in. I think it's safe to say we'll be at around the 1.1 plus or minus $100,000, depending on the weather. Big thing on that, the big feedback I've received and I read about certainly, and we always, it's kind of a misnomer, but I get it, is that, the favorability is because of open positions. It's just the way the timing or how this works out mechanics, but if you all check the front of the controller's report right on there, we have a positive year-to-date operating fund of 1.1. How's that broken down? 945,000. So basically 90% of it is revenues over budget. It's organic revenue that we're growing. We're growing everywhere. Golf course, I gave you some numbers before that were eye-popping. Food and beverage, in food and beverage, the banquets have popped, right? We had COVID. The racket sports, all the racket sports. Paddle is doing a little better, maybe not from last year, but definitely doing better from 5 years ago. Pickleball is going this way, certainly led by pickleball, tennis, aquatics, recreation, everybody, it's across the board. So 90% of it is positive on the revenue side. On the expense side is, positive, maybe 10%. And a lot of that is reallocation of expenses, efficiencies. Safety has gone up, will go up. I've talked about this. The next budget, it will go up even more. We value our safety. That's what the survey said. I believe everybody in this room, if I asked them, would raise their hand and say they value safety. Please do that. Yeah. We have everybody. The price is going up for that, just like everywhere else. Everywhere else. I am glad that we have a board and association that wants to move forward. We have Steve here today, usually Dave. I just want to say thank you to Steve. I know everybody else will. So we do try to reallocate our expenses and budget to safety, whether it's the police, right? We got the cruisers, we didn't increase the budget for that. We reallocate it from other places. So that's all I have. If anybody has any questions on the finances or anything else, I'll stay after. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Next item on the agenda is treasurer's report. Monica?
As of March 31st of this year, the association had approximately 14.4 million in cash. Cash increased 500,000 from the same time period last year. Cash has decreased 1.4 million from February of this year. We have 7.1 million invested in CDARS, remaining 7.3 million in insured cash sweep, money market, and other operating accounts.
Thank you, Monica. Any questions for Monica? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comments. Please be advised, if you want to make a public comment, please state your name and address. The comments are limited to 5 minutes. The floor is now open for public comments.
Good morning, I'm Karen Kaplan, 32 Chatham Court. First, thank you to all the board members for all your hard work. Thank you to Mr. Viola for all you've done for the community. Recently hiring a qualified racket center manager, and we look forward to working with Tim Johnson. I'm here today on behalf of the Platform Tennis Club to protest the recent policy change by management that dissolved the goodwill partnership between Platform Tennis and the OPA. Members are no longer permitted to offer a no-cost introduction to platform tennis sports. Since 1998, our own member volunteers have worked in a goodwill partnership with the OPA. We provided the introductory instruction to potential members, and the OPA allowed a no-cost 2-week trial period most recently. Golf offered free greens fees on resident golf day. Greens fees run $39 to $59 per person. Golf offered several ladies putters club sessions at no cost and without membership and with tutorial events. Swim offers, I counted 9 no-cost first aquatic classes, and the drop-in fee is waived. Pickle members have 14 hours of free indoor court time. They're excellent marketing tools and good for the community. We want to offer at least 3 free intro lessons. We at Platform Tennis feel marginalized and unappreciated, particularly because over the last 2 years, we've converted this no-cost trial to 61 first-time memberships at $180. That is revenue generated for the OPA. Platform tennis, spec tennis, and timeless tennis just do not ring a bell with people like tennis, pickleball, golf, and swim do. People don't come looking for us. Requiring a drop-in fee of $7 to try our unfamiliar sports is going to hurt us, regardless of who the instructor is. With the advent of pickleball, the usual attrition of people moving or aging out, and COVID, the platform tennis membership was dwindling. In response to the low membership numbers in 2021, we promoted the introduction to platform and timeless tennis. And in 2022, we introduced a new sport, spec tennis, as a third small court sport. We hammered local community Facebook pages with ads promoting our sports. Our members volunteered endless hours of introducing potential members to platform sports. As a result, we gained 31 first-time members in 2020 and 31 in 2022. To be clear, these are first-time members, including combo member players who now play platform sports. It is not an overall membership increase. Imagine if we didn't attract those 61 new members over the last 2 years. In 2020, we were at 53% of projected revenue. In 2021, we made it up to 78%. Currently, we're at 108% of our projected revenue due to the draw of the complimentary intro. There's the tangible evidence of the success of our goodwill partnership with the OPA. One could argue that amenity fee policy is policy, not operations. As the board has had detailed discussion about amenity fees this year, as evidenced by their input and actions in this year's budget and Board of Directors meetings. Resolution M-02 of the bylaws supports the board's involvement. While some may appreciate the united front presented by the board and management in dissolving our partnership, consider the bigger picture. What is fair and equitable? What is working? And what is the value of goodwill? Our club is deflated by the hard line management have taken on this issue. We hope that you reconsider your decision and waive the fee for member-provided intro instruction to platform courts. At least for this season, while our new Racket Center manager acclimates himself to the Racket Center and to our platform sports. There is much room for compromise. For the record, I have documentation of all I have said. And would all the platform members who support this protest please stand? Thank you for your time.
Thank you for the information. Other public comments?
Tim Lon, 126 Ocean Parkway. I've lived here since 1991. Over 30 years. 10 years ago, I had the grandkids to park and I walked up the courts to see what was going on. They didn't treat me like a customer. They treated me like a family. They treated me like I was a neighbor. They let me try the sport out, invited me back for a lesson. I've been playing ever since. If the boat's not sinking, why are you trying to sink it? Just common sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comments?
Good morning. My name is Laura Strauss. I am at 7 The Point. I am one of the new members at the Spec Tennis. I am the new blood that you were looking for. I joined last year. My family of 4. I'm new to Ocean Pines, but I've grown up here. So I'm very familiar with it. I was familiar with golf, heard of it everywhere. Swimming, heard of it everywhere. Pickleball, everybody's heard of pickleball. Never heard of Spec Tennis. And as I do want to retire and explore these sports sometime soon, Spec Tennis has given my family of 4 something to start to explore. We were 4 of your memberships that just came into being last year. I would like to continue that, but without those free lessons that were in the newsletter, I read over the newsletter, I'm like, let's go do something, get the kids out of the house. Got my kid who was very social or academic, sorry, she's not very good at sports. When you have a child not very good at sports, you want a court with a fence all the way around that court. You do not want to run 5 courts over every other second. And let me tell you, Estelle was so wonderful with working with her because she is awkward at best. So it was lovely trying to have something to draw her out. Now, as again, a working adult, I would love to start getting other working adults who are transitioning into retirement into that sport as well, so that we could try to get ourselves fit and stay that way as we age. These free lessons are what get started with that. So I just wanted to bring attention to that when you're thinking about your recruiting for this particular amendment. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comments?
Hi, morning, gentlemen, ladies. My name is Grace Chow. I live on the 23 Eastern. I'm just following with the previous 2 ladies on the platform club. I'm the one of the example, okay? I come to here, retire here. I know nothing about tennis, spec, anything else. So in that situation, I want to find something can fit my physical. What do you think is the best way for me to try? Only thing I can try is go through those free lessons in order to find out what is a suit for me. And also, the lady before me also mentioned, those sports to me, when I was in the working world, I don't know them. I did not even play tennis. So for me, that's a pretty significant issue. If I'm standing here letting you guys know, I'm one of the example, okay? Start from the baby step. Then I'm sure there's a plenty of, lots of, doesn't matter, gentlemen or ladies out there just had the same issues or same experiences I did. So I really wish everybody can reconsider, okay? And you also heard Karen mention, with those volunteers, I cannot tell you how much we appreciate Karen's effort. Okay, in order for this sports to grow. If you drop that, okay, within the next few years, and this little club may or may not be existing, which is not benefit for Ocean Pine either. Okay, so I think, you know, $7 the core charge or whatever the terms we use, you know, may be not significant for whole Ocean Pine, but I think for the newcomers, know nothing about those sport, it's pretty significant first step for us to really be introduced to. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have a statement about, well, my name is Steve Hafner. It's my first meeting. I've been,
Address, please.
thank you.
Address.
Pardon?
Home address, please.
Oh, yes, 6 and 8 Fairway Lane,
Thank you.
house in the middle of 2 lots. My only comment is the amenities that I care about are security, the police, and the fire department and EMS. Those are the amenities that I think all of us here care about. Number one, having those taken care of, well taken care of. My question simply is, with the police department in this situation, it is manpower wise right now, until you do get enough on board, will the state police and the sheriff's department continue to monitor through Ocean Pines? Okay, that's number one. And number two, the EMS and the fire department, manpower wise, are they strong still with manpower? And what will that look like in the future? And the only other thing is repairs on the properties, meaning the ditches, you guys have made a statement that you're not going to be cleaning out. You want the homeowners to do that. Are you already looking at a plan to make sure that continues, that the homeowner is going to be cleaning out okay, debris, I do my 2 lots constantly. There's no trash in the front of my house, leaves, sticks, whatever. What are you all going to be doing about enforcing your new mandate of having that done? Thanks a lot for your time.
Noted, and I'll rescind Robert's rules and ask John to respond to, I believe there were 3 questions. One was on the police department, the other was on the fire department, and the third was on the drainage ditches, correct? Please.
Doug, thank you. And sir, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the comment. Thank you for the question. And Doug, thank you for giving me the opportunity to respond. Certainly valid questions and the questions we all have. Let's start with the police, and you're right, we're shorthanded. Here's what we have. We have support from the county. The county supporting our team. They continue. We don't have the commander there anymore. Lieutenant Toppin is in charge, reporting to me. Ocean Pines has always been in charge of the police department, but we do have the county supporting us in different ways. We also have the state troopers or the county supporting us in the time slots where we may not have the manpower. So we're basically, with the overtime and everything, we're getting through it. As I mentioned earlier, those recruits get in there in July. We hope to build it back within it. It's going to take time, but I want to do a shout out to the state. They are helping us. So that was on that. The fire department. I have Steve here. I mean, certainly Steve, I mean, you quality.
Yeah, we are good with manpower right now. Thanks to the board, we have a person starting May 1st, which is going to allow us to get 2 ambulances out, also the fire truck with volunteers coming. So we are staffed up. We are good to go. And again, thank you guys for, allowing us to put a 5th person on.
Okay, on the ditches, I'm going to ask our CPI lead and certainly well-qualified Linda Martin.
Okay, the ditches, the only thing that's changing is we're not going to be vacuuming the ditches. So most residents used to rake that up on the road, and we would come by and vacuum. We're just requesting that you bag them along with the rest of your yard, and then we will pick up the bags. So the vacuuming is not going to continue. We will, however, if there is a work order put in for the drainage ditch, we will be maintaining the drainage ditch. So if you have a clogged drainage ditch or a clogged pipe, Public Works will be out at the property to maintain the ditch. So we will be taking care of that as well.
The yard up at the south fire, department where we can dump leaves.
Yeah, that's going to be open.
I was looking at maybe extending in the winter.
Yes.
Time for us to.
We do have the permit now that you put on your window. You can obtain that at Public Works. Right now, it'll be open all May and all of December, December. But if you want to, if you have yard debris with that sticker, if you call the Public Works number, they will get someone to meet you over any time of the year, meet you over in the yard to dump any of the debris.
Excellent. Thank you.
And we'll continue to communicate that. I know Josh is listening. Josh, please put that on the list. I know we have it on the website. And either Linda or myself will put in slides and board meetings. We'll continue to communicate.
Thank you.
Questions, sir?
I'm reinstating Robert's rules. Other public comments?
My name is Paula Gray. I live at 88 Windjammer, and this is extremely simple. Next month, we start our election process for the board. Fortunately, with everything that happened last year, we ended up with a functional, ethical, productive board, for which we all thank you. My comments today do not address the board members seated. First, and unfortunately, thank you to Charlie Reynolds for his objective look at the processes that we utilized that we do not know are going to recur this year. I am here to say, what are we doing now? We have heard in a lot of the driveway papers, one time we're going to use paper ballots, one time we're going to use electronic, one time we're going to use both. Now we're doing this or that. This is simply, 6 of my neighbors all knocked on my door this morning to make sure I was coming, just to request that the board and the election committee put out a combined statement as a public now, not just in the OP site, because a lot of people, when they get down around racquetball, stop reading. Just put it in the driveway papers as to how the election will be. Are we going back to paper? Are we going to eliminate the process? We got a good board last time. Lightning doesn't strike twice. We want to make sure that with the way we're headed and working with our financial people, that this has all gone right. I also see that there was an announcement, it may not be true, that the OP has decided to abandon the search committee. Have you looked around the community lately? The large and increasing number of younger residents, a lot with extended families, how many of them even know what is required? How many of them know the closing date? How many of them know the time that is actually required? It might be nice for several of you to make some notices in newspapers or comments as to what it took and why you do it and how many hours it takes, so they have an objective idea. But let's go back and put back in the search committee. It's important to make sure the integrity and the responsibility of this board keeps us going. I intend to live to be very, very old, and I want to make sure that our financial process keeps my sewers, my pipes, my police department all in place in case I need them. With the opening of Mr. Daly's seat, and have a good luck, Mr. Daly, with your future, we are now going to be repeating almost 50% of the board. We now have a very intense program about putting out signs for the election. How about a program to recruit future board members? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mary Ann White at 8 Beach Nut Court, and I'm a member of Paddleball. And one of the things I'd like to bring up is I think we're comparing apples and oranges when we talk about golf and tennis and swimming. Okay, everybody knows what those sports are. Nobody knows what platform is. We have 3 sports, platform, spec, and timeless tennis. And the way that my husband and I joined was we went down to the racket center. We were greeted very warmly by members who said, hey, do you want to learn how to play the sport? We said yes. They taught us how to play it, and they said, we have a 2-week membership if you'd like to come back, which we took advantage of. Based on that, we joined. Okay, if you're not going to have something like that for people who don't know the sport, how are we going to grow our membership? I mean, I think it's a lose-lose situation to be charging people to come for learning how to play a lesson and then charging them to come back, and they may never come back. As Karen pointed out, she's already got data that shows it's working. Why would you cut off your nose to spite your face? I don't understand it. So I would like to ask that you reconsider your position, reinstate the 2 weeks trial membership, free lessons. Our people are giving lessons of their own accord. They're not charging the association. If you're talking about lessons for swimming and golf, you're paying your staff to give those lessons. We are not charging anybody. Okay, so it's a win-win. Think about it. I'm requesting that you reconsider the opportunity to continue with the way we've been going along. And it's a win-win for everybody, as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comments?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Yiping Chow. I reside in 23 Eastern Avenue. May I have a show of hand? Everybody in here, a board member included. How many of you have certificate post high school education, college education? How many have professional certificate, PhDs, all kind of stuff? And can I also have a show of hands? How many of you have public high school free education? How many have public junior high school free education? Can I have a show of hands? How many of you would have your professional education and have a good life if you haven't had free junior high school education? That's all I got.
Thank you. Other public comments?
Excuse me if I'm a little nervous. My name is Michael Leventhal and I live at 32 Chatham Court. I've been there for 6 years and I've been a platform player before. Before I begin my comments, I want to say that I'm absolutely astounded. I thought that I knew how difficult your job was. And I appreciate the effort. I could never do it myself. And what we're here for today in regarding pickleball, a platform, may seem minor in the scheme of things, but we believe it's important, and I think you'll understand why. I believe that the decision to eliminate complementary play is both arbitrary and detrimental to the HOA efforts to attract new membership. We've all come here to share our thoughts about the value of complementary play as a marketing tool for our club. But please understand that everything you have heard today has already been communicated through proper channels. This appears to be a communication problem. That's one of the things I would like to bring to your attention. The racket center clubs have attempted to understand the justification for the sudden new ruling. We are all in agreement that the members are entitled to understand this decision. Now, we've repeatedly asked for an explanation so we can understand this and adapt to it. But our questions have been deflected, and attempts to learn the basis for the decision have been stonewalled and deflected. First, we were told there must be, quote, a cost associated with it, period. Then we were told, quote, it's not in line with other amenities, period. Finally, we were told, quote, a charge for lessons is a consideration as a source of revenue to support the expense of having a highly qualified manager. Finally, an answer that makes some sense. But until the new manager is prepared to teach platform tennis and everything else that we play, because we have 3 sports on the same court, I suggest that we just keep the status quo. What is the rationale for putting this into effect now? Is it going to increase membership? How much will it earn for the HOA? And how much does it cost the HOA? This is what's costing you. For each 10 prospects that come to our courts, we sign up 5 new members. Each of the 10 prospects get 2 sessions, not 14 days, get 2 sessions at $7 per session. That's a total cost of $140 in lost revenue. Now, each of those 5 new members pays $180. Well, that produces $900 a year, every year, for as long as they maintain membership. Now, please understand that we have members who are very loyal. Some of them have been with the club for 15, 20, or 25 years, and our oldest player is 92 as of tomorrow. Everybody in this room shares a common goal, the health and welfare of our community. But consider Resolution M2, the amenity policy of the bylaws, which states, we must be committed to finding, attracting, and winning new customers. We all do. The policy also states, effective customer satisfaction will be achieved only if association management et al. Work in synergy to increase the membership amenity use and thereby improve financial performance. We have not been all acting in concert. At this time, it appears that the original decision was arbitrary and capricious. I hope you can prove me wrong. It appears that it is rational that the pro should be giving the lessons. I suggest that the board temporarily reverse its decision and supervise a trial period to evaluate the value-added effect of using complementary passes. Once armed with that information, the board can revisit its decision. I commend everybody on the board for their diligent work representing us, and I can appreciate the difficulties that come with the job. I simply ask that you all reflect on the reasons why you chose to serve on the board. Thank you.
Other public comments?
It's not that bad. I'm Janusek, 17 Lookout Point. First, I wanted to just talk quickly about the yard waste situation. I think for next year, we might want to consider, because you're opening the yard for all of May. everything's grown by May. I mean, I have a pile this high of old grasses and stuff that I'm holding in my trailer until May, so I can take them to the yard and throw them away. But my point is maybe, and I know it's a manpower issue, but maybe next year, have the yard open on the weekends in April, especially for the people that live down here through the summer and come down on the weekends to get their house set up for the summer for themselves. They can go to the yard on the weekend and dump their waste and so forth. Because by May 1st, everything's grown, and up, and your flowers are up, and everything to that nature. So I appreciate that. And I do appreciate the yard thing, and believe me, I'll be calling Eddie on Monday to empty my trailer. Lastly, I want to, I know I'm going to direct this directly at Doug because I told him I was going to yesterday. You got a lot accomplished in your 6 years on the board. You got a steelwork company contract, which saved us tons and tons of money and made us a bunch. You got us an agreement with Comcast to give us some competition against Mediacom. So I'm going to give you a third thing you need to do in your 4 months. waning months. So I want to put one more arrow in your quiver. You drive this Ocean Parkway from down around Clubhouse, I mean, not Clubhouse, just down next to the fire department, all the way around to the other side, and there is no cell service. Anybody who's been on their phone, it's basically choppy. It's insane. There's no cell service on the east side. So look, I just got back from California. Blame me, my son lives there, and I went and saw my grandson. But they have cell towers that look like palm trees. So there's a lot of pine trees right here. Let's put one up in the golf course. Nobody even noticed. It'll look just like a big old pine tree with cell service on top of it. Right there in the middle. I know we tried to do it at the waste center, but they wouldn't allow it, so that's okay. But this is property we own. Well, I put it to you, Doug, and I'm going to come back in August before your last meeting and see if you've done it. But I think you've got the initiative and you've got some time because you're lame duck now. So.
Wow. Till that time.
Anyway, I would appreciate if we could at least look into it.
Put a committee together to look into it. I know it's just not me. I mean, everybody's and I don't need to be on my phone all the time, but still it's nice if you're talking to somebody or you have your emergency and you're driving around that you can actually make a conversation. So I would appreciate if you guys either put a committee together or let Doug do it all by himself. That's, he did great with Comcast.
I got Doug.
Publicly put me on the spot. I will publicly respond and say, yeah, we'll take another look at it. Conditions that warranted the decision back then may have changed between then and now. So there's no real concerted effort. Got an ask Verizon and other cell service providers to see what their status is right now. So we can actually pull it out. I will commit to the community that I'll make those inquiries.
Thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Other public comments?
Thanks, my phone.
My name's Donna McElroy and I live at 6 Whitesale Circle. So 3 things came to my mind while I was listening to everyone today. And the first thing I noticed sitting in one of the front rows, many of us are older and have difficulty hearing. And I know which of those here, including myself, wear hearing aids and we cannot hear the questions being asked of the public speakers. I don't know what the proper procedure is, but would it be possible in the future to put this podium at an angle where that speaker can be heard entirely by the room as well as by the board? So that would be my first suggestion. I'm right here and I'm putting my head on his shoulder to hear John, and I'm interrupting everyone's personal space. So that would be number 1. Number 2, I guess it should have been number 1. I too want to compliment the board for an outstanding year. My husband and I are very happy with everything that's transpiring in our community. And we are now here full-time as retired individuals. And as such, I was hoping to learn something about the spec tennis. And I kept saying to him, look, we can get free lessons, but I guess that's not going to happen. And finally, I'm going to inquire about a subject that's been on my mind for probably 5 years. Kathleen, you probably know what I'm going to complain about because I constantly went to Kathleen to say, who's in charge of the boaters' showers and toilets? And we kicked it around. We'll go in and ask inside. Well, I'll find out. And I finally realized that I probably should have taken it to the
Dockmaster.
yeah. Oh, and I did. And it was off season. It was near the end. And I had three things I was concerned about. I was concerned about the condition of some of the slips and other things. And I said, and we need that shower. We have granddaughters and they bring their friends, you know, and we get off the boat and they all want to shower. So 6 girls head over there and only 1 shower works. Now, I also approached a committee that I thought might be able to get an answer. And it's been a couple of years and we still don't have an answer. So last month I walked over to the boater's shower area and there's a chain and lock on it now. So you can't even get in. And I'm just wondering if someone can find out what the status is of that. It is something my family has always utilized. And if people are coming in and they need to shower because they want to go in and have a dinner or something, that needs to be available. And 1 shower does not do a boatload of individuals who have been out swimming, sailing, whatever. So those are really my only questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's on the list. I will look into it on Monday. I know we have it on there. There's a lot going on out there, but I added more showers too, but about it.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
Is that going to be unlocked when boating season starts? Do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the
Yeah.
hours in the
Okay.
next.
Yeah, I mean, not all the time, but absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
During the day and everything. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and I would just like to remind the membership that the most efficient way to get those questions answered and those issues addressed is to email info@oceanpines.org. It goes directly to Linda,
I know.
from Linda to the proper.
And I would say it's excellent. I can ask a question at 8 a.m. and she's back to me in no time.
Got it. Nice job, Linda.
Thank you. Other public comments? Seeing none, I'm going to click. All right, one more.
One last.
Almost, okay.
Dave Tanner, 65 Skyline Court. Quick one, a couple of things. One, on the platform tennis group, I think one of the things we talked enough about, a lot of it, but I think a lot of what makes it is what makes Ocean Pines. It's the people. And it's not the cost so much of bringing people in, but it's come over, they wander and say, oh, what's this? And they get somebody that's, oh, yeah, come in, do this. It's kind of informal, a lot of it, or come back on the Saturday. It's the people that make it, okay? That's why people join. They're not concerned about the cost, okay? It's type thing. It's just like, oh, yeah, these are really nice people. They took me in. Most of us kind of joined that way. Now, looking at the financial end of it, the cost-wise, I like to point out it's different in that it's more like a park because the racket center really has very low operating costs. Okay, somebody doesn't come or doesn't, you know, it's $8. If they pay, it's $8. What does that go to? You know, there's no cost to coming to someone, for someone to come and get a free lesson. Matter of fact, and go over and use the at the swim and racket club, right? No cost. Do we lose money on that? No, because it hardly costs us anything to maintain it. You can go across the street to Showell Park. They have pickle courts and tennis courts over there. There's no cost. Why again? There's nobody there, so there's no operating costs. The main operating cost racket center are attendants there that watch us come in and swipe our membership card. That costs us, because of all the hours, 365 days a year, about $60,000. In this day and age, we don't need that. We can pump our own gas. We can swipe a card, membership card. We only collect $20,000 a year, all the day rates. It's less than that, actually. So we're paying $60,000 to collect $20,000. Crazy. But we need is a little technology just for people to come by, like they check themselves out of Walmart or Home Depot, which has a cost because they're getting $100 worth of goods. And just come in and swipe, and we could reduce that cost. We could reduce our membership cost by about half. We'd have a lot more membership. We wouldn't have to deal with costs because you just have a credit card reader, just like getting your gas. Boop, boop, boop. Done. So that's a different take on it for you. By the way, the question about the cell towers is a good one. The issue there to help you out is they need to repoint the towers. You go out the north gate, we've got all the towers there for cells. They need to spend some money, Verizon and some of the other things, and point the towers because they can easily reach places in here. They're just misaligned, just to help you with your last task.
President of your committee right there.
Other public comments?
Hi, I'm Becky Leonard, 18 Bird Nest. I'm coming today to support the paddle club. I'm one of the new members. We're semi-retired here. We've had a residence for over 10 years, but last 2 years were full-time. I used to ride my bike down to the paddle center and just kind of check it out when I was here over the summers. Now that we're here full time, I like to immerse myself in my new community. We love our community. I joined or I went on a Saturday for one of the free lessons. Had no idea what paddle, spec, or timeless tennis was. Had a great lesson, met some great people, and I was hooked right away. The other advantage, they have paddles. You didn't have to invest any money right away. They had paddles actually there that you could use while you're going until you fully invest. And it was a great opportunity. I met some great people there. And like I said, it was a great investment for me to take the time to get the free lessons, to learn what it was all about. And I'm continuing to go. Like others have said, everybody knows what tennis is. Everyone knows what pickleball is. But paddle, spec, platform, or timeless tennis is something that I've never heard of. And as a PE teacher, it would have been nice to know some of these sports as well when finding new units for classes. So I just want to ask the board to rethink the idea of doing away with the lessons or the opportunity for people to come and learn new activities here. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comments? Seeing none, I'll close the floor for public comments, move to the next item on our agenda, and that is capital requests. Golf maintenance, John?
Okay. There's a slide up there, no slide. Who's doing the slides? No slides. Okay, thank you, Doug. Capital requests, golf maintenance, Hydro Designs, Inc.
Excuse me, quiet, please.
Requesting authorization to go forward with staff recommendation of $20,550 for the irrigation system design and systematics, the golf course. This is a continuation of something that we've already worked on.
I'll entertain a motion to authorize the expense for irrigation system design.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. John, anything to add? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of authorizing expense for irrigation system design, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Please note the vote was unanimous. Next item on the agenda is CPI violations. We have none to report at this point. Next item of business is unfinished business. We have no unfinished business from the previous. Next item on the agenda is new business. First item, motion for mosquito control. Board hereby approves the proposed single source contract through the Maryland Department of Environment not to exceed $19,000 for mosquito control. The purpose and effect, annual mosquito control is part of the operational aspects of OPA and is done in conjunction with Worcester County and the state of Maryland. Background is that the annual expense exceeds GM authority and therefore requires board approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
The question that I get from people is, how often is this mosquito abatement activity occurring, spraying or whatever they do? People are complaining there are lots of mosquitoes and don't see the effectiveness of this program.
I do not have the answer to those questions. I see John has vacated the premises. Or Linda, do you have any information on that we can share?
Times they do it every month. So it was June, July, and August they spray. So I'm not sure what their schedule is for this year, but it is 3 times.
All right, it looks like,
Is there consideration for increasing that? That seems like maybe it's not enough.
I can look.
so a couple things. Number one, remember, this program is pushed by the Department of, Natural Resources,
Right.
to the state. So I'm sure they have their own standards, their own criteria for so on and so forth. I don't think it hurts to make that inquiry, to go to them and say, the current policy is that, they're going to spray, is June, July, and August. And then, is there a possibility of increasing that and will it yield any results? All right, we can certainly ask that question. I doubt very seriously that's the only thing this year, but certainly something for next year under that consideration, assuming we get a positive response from them saying, yes, if you want additional, it might cost you more, but we do have the ability to do so.
Yeah, I think it would be good for them to get feedback or at least do some evaluation of effectiveness and consider whether what they're doing is really meeting the needs of the community.
Other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the expense of $19,000 for mosquito control, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Record the vote as unanimous. Next item on the agenda, a motion to approve and award a contract for legal services to the law firm of Ayers, Jenkins, Gordy, and Almond. Purpose and effect to establish a contractual relationship with the noted law firm for legal services needed by the Ocean Pines Association. The background is OPA is required to have legal services as part of the overall operation of the association's business. As a good business practice, a periodic review of all current professional service providers, including legal services, should be conducted. An RFP was sent to a number of law firms that provide various legal services to HOA and other similar organizations to solicit responses to see if there was an intent to join a contractual relationship with Ocean Pines for these services. 5 RFP solicitations that were sent, 2 firms responded. Their responses were reviewed by the GM as well as the board to ensure that all services required by OPA could be provided. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Colette.
Okay, first, I would like to request that the people in the audience remain silent until they're given the floor. It's very distracting to try to do our business up here with all this background noise. With respect to the contract, I reviewed proposals put forth by the 2 companies, and I have concern trading down and not trading up and changing our general counsel. The current counsel that we have gives us a team of HOA specialists whose practices are fully focused on HOA clients. The contact person that we have is the top HOA attorney within their firm. Attorneys that they're assigning to our contract are steeped in and fully focused on HOA laws and legal issues. Client list includes large HOAs, not just small condominium complexes. They have at the ready templates and background research as a result of their deep work in this field at the ready to be able to respond to our needs, which I think saves cost to us because they don't have to kind of reinvent the wheel with every question. Our current law firm has diversity in their training. Their lawyers have come from top law schools throughout the country. And I think that's a real benefit that we have training that reflects a wide range of perspectives and approaches. Our current general counsel has years of experience with Ocean Pines Association and is well versed in its history of general legal issues, prior litigation, prior and current HR issues, collection issues, and the evolution of our governing documents and practices. The current firm has demonstrated its ability to give full focus and prompt response to our issues during the workday, at night, on the weekend. We get questions from the public 24/7, and our law firm responds to our request to support us in responding to the public 24/7. The current firm gives us access to a top Maryland litigator for any litigation needs that we have above and beyond the regular HOA general counsel needs, as well as other legal specialties within their firm who have not just the JD degree, but advanced legal training and degrees. The fees of our current firm as proposed are somewhat higher than the other option, but I think my opinion is that we would save money by staying with the current firm because of all that they bring. The other firm, the positives are that they do have slightly lower billing rate. They are said to be an advantage, preferred choice because they have what might be considered a home field advantage. I don't think that's something that we need for the kind of work that a general counsel does. That's a benefit for litigation, but our general counsel does not do litigation. The negatives for the firm that's under consideration, in my view, are that they're generalists. They focus on a wide variety of legal issues that are unrelated to HOA law, in addition to HOA law. Their principal attorney that would be assigned to our contract is the firm's top litigator, whose calendar would be dictated to some extent, at least, and perhaps to a large extent, by the court scheduling related to litigation cases that they're involved in, and would divide his focus between the priorities of the litigation practice and the priorities of the HOA practice. The firm under consideration lacks the diversity and training that our current firm has, in that the majority of the attorneys in that firm attended the same law school. Their HOA client list is primarily small condo and other HOAs or municipalities, as opposed to a large HOA such as ours that has the complexities associated with the variety of services we offer: police, fire, EMS, parks and rec, and then the various amenities that we have. I'm also concerned about the potential for conflict on the issues in which there are other local clients' interests, such as Ocean City, may conflict with ours. And I would like, before we sign a contract, to hear their plan on how they would handle such conflicts when and if they arise. There also is a potential conflict by virtue of their having listed in their client roster 2 of our sitting directors. And I would want us to have evidence of their having severed their relationship with those clients presented to us prior to the approval of any contract. And then the final concern that I have is the amount of time it would take at our expense for them to come up to speed on collection and HR issues that are in process or not yet resolved. So I would, I have concerns about approving this contract at this time.
Other comments?
So I have kind of a different concern for different reasons, and it's in terms of a lost opportunity. Okay, so from the just overall changing firms, a long time ago, a CEO of a very large defense contractor told me you have to have absolute trust and confidence in 3 people: your doctor, your lawyer, and your accountant. And the minute you don't have that criteria with those, drop them. And the fact of the matter is, the majority of our litigation in Ocean Pines and work with litigation goes between the general manager and the attorneys. There's a subset that's significant, but not as large, that comes from the board, generally from a committee to review resolutions, motions, that kind of thing. So whomever the general manager feels most comfortable working with based on trust and confidence is what we should do. So I'm okay with that portion of changing firms. The lost opportunity is this. My 4 years on the board, we have averaged about one major court case a year. And in those court cases, when I look at the comments coming back and forth from our homeowners, there is what I would call a basic misunderstanding of our process. So they understand our process. Somebody takes a legal action against the Ocean Pines Association. The general manager informs our insurance carrier. Our insurance carrier appoints counsel, and counsel defends us. That appointed counsel defends us. That is not our association general counsel that does that. Okay? In this case, this has been driven because we have dealt with Attorney Bright from that firm, and he is a brilliant litigator. Okay? In the last court case we were in, we had an opportunity to use another brilliant litigator to defend us, and it was a timing issue. For those not familiar, it was because I was in a damn meeting. It was Monday at 5:30 after working hours. Our insurance counsel did not appoint counsel for us, and we had a Wednesday morning court appointment. So from our existing counsel, Lurch Early, person said, we have a renowned litigator from Maryland. I'm not going to compare attorneys. Somebody with equal credentials, and they are willing to take the case. But we want you to understand two things. Their rates are about, as I recall, 2 to 3 times higher than the insurance rate, and they're not going to work at a reduced rate. Okay? That leads to the core issue that I have as a concern. When your general counsel advises you, they're giving you a roadmap, and they don't tell us what to do. They say, here are your options. Here is the risk for each option. When we take a course of action and get sued as a result of it, another attorney comes in and defends us. An attorney not familiar with those discussions, an attorney not familiar with that process. And in each and every case, the roadmap is, we'll take a look at your bylaws. What did you talk? And we'll work with your association general counsel, and they come up with a defense. And I think that all of you that have been through it on this side of the table, and those of you that don't know, in those 4 cases, we have never had the same attorney. We have never had our association general counsel defend us. And the quality range is exactly what you would expect. Okay? It's not a consistent quality. And the core issue with that is these top litigators that, don't quote me as exact rate. I think our insurance rate is $250 an hour. The top litigators get somewhere around $1,000 an hour. There's a difference in those prices for a reason, folks. And that reason is the top guys that charge $1,000 an hour get results. Okay? What I would prefer to see is to say that our association general counsel needs to have a recognized top litigator. And in the legal profession, there's a way to do that through bona fides. And that litigator will defend us as part of their role as our association general counsel. And that requires us to do some things that haven't been done right now. The first thing we'd have to do is change our arrangement with our insurance carrier to say that they'll either pay us the $250 an hour and we cough up the difference, or they'll pay to defend us at that top litigator rate. That's something we should do. We pay almost $750,000 for insurance, and we shouldn't have dog food defending us. Okay? and at the size of our community and the issues that are at stake and the issues that I see potentially at stake in the future, quite frankly, I don't want somebody defending me at $250 an hour when I can have somebody at $1,000 an hour. It's simply when we go to court, we should not go to tie. We should go to court for one purpose and one purpose only, that is to win. And I don't think we get that under this contract. And I'd like to see the contract changed because it's an opportunity for better protection of us as a corporation, for better protection as the homeowners.
Other comments? Steve?
Thanks, Doug. I'll have a motion to offer in just a moment, but I wanted to touch on the crux of what is the motion on the floor right now. First of all, on the one hand, you have two separate law firms, both of which made presentations or responses to the RFP. I read through both of those twice. I will tell you both are, I would say, pretty high quality. And I think, frankly, that their comparisons and distinctions between the two, some of which have already been highlighted. But in my mind, it's sort of a close choice between the two firms. On the one hand, you have the Lurch Law Firm, which has provided a wide array of legal services to Ocean Pines in a professional and legally sound way. They are steeped in homeowners association law. They understand the different disciplines within the law that a association of type Ocean Pines is that needs to be addressed. Contracts and drafting of resolutions and governing documents, human resources and employment law, zoning questions, all of that is covered more than adequately, frankly, by the Lurch Law Firm. The Ayers Law Firm is well known to several members of the board for a couple of different reasons that I won't go into. The proposed legal lead attorney, Bruce Bright, has an excellent record as a litigator, especially when Ocean Pines is on the other side. And I'd go so far as to say he's probably a far better attorney than any attorney that sits on this board right now, of which I'm the only one. And there may well be value in having a local law firm represent us, particularly when you're in court. But the fact of the matter is as prior speakers have already pointed out, our general counsel rarely is in court litigating on behalf of Ocean Pines. I think the basic difference is the detail in the two responses to the RFP in the types of services that we need. Lurch Law Firm went into a fair amount of detail, identifying the different areas where they have either worked with the association, can continue to work with the association, and have a record to prove that they deserve to have their contract renewed. The Ayers Law Firm, in deference to them, and boiled down to the nub here, is we're a general practice law firm, we're local, we can handle all the issues you have. But there was not a lot of substance as to how they intend to address those various areas of the law that we as Ocean Pines have a need to have a counsel adequately enough to deal with. So to me, while I think it's a fairly close call, there's a little bit of a tilt. And I would say one other thing. The responses to the RFPs were circulated to the board members. No one responded for the longest time. I read through the proposals. I actually inquired as to what the nature of the resolution would be, because my preference would have been to have the two law firms come before the board in an open meeting and discuss both what they are ready to do and any questions the board has. That is not what is taking place here. So with putting aside debate on the pending resolution motion, I will offer a motion debate would be limited to that. So I don't want to cut off anybody's opportunity to respond, but I will offer a motion in a few minutes.
Other discussion? All right, I have a couple of things. Number one, going back to any type of transition in reference to the benefits or detriments of being a local attorney, rest assured that we had Joe Moore's attorney as our attorney for 34 years. At one point in time, there was a sentiment that, yes, having that local knowledge is certainly a benefit. But in other cases, people, and this is no disparaging approach, but things get stale, things get rote, things become commonplace. And there's an opportunity at various points in any business relationship to look at, a different perspective, a new, fresh approach to things, perhaps also following up on things that may have changed between the time that you took the position of being an attorney for the association and today. I go back to my corporate roots. We had Deloitte & Touche as our auditors for a very long period of time, 5 years. All right. They've done a wonderful job, quality responses, quality reports, a general understanding of the organization. Yet, despite that, it's good business practice to take a look at those core services and see if there's other opportunities out there. We changed from Deloitte & Touche to PricewaterhouseCoopers. And in no deference to Deloitte & Touche, they were very good. This is the same thing. Lurch Early has done an outstanding job for the association, especially in the area of collections. And they really, and I think the number as of today, they've brought close to $1 million worth of collections in the past 5 years back to our coffers based on their efforts in their collections. I'll also say when I looked at the comparison between the two law firms, they are very, and I would agree with Steve, they're very close, they're very similar. I think to respond the way I took it is it's a difference in style, meaning that Lurch Early provided a lot of detail. All right. Ayers did not, but they provided the very, answers to all of the questions, all the services that were being required, perhaps just by design, they talk about chunking. People can take 7 things. After that, they're not paying attention anymore. So perhaps they didn't want to inundate things with detail. Also, the reason I'm in support of this is, number one, for the aforementioned just change and that fresh perspective. But number two, and I'm going to give Frank kudos because I do agree with that. There's at some point we are now basically this motion says that we can contract for legal services. Now, that doesn't mean we have a contract yet. What it means, we are open, we're going to pursue, Ayers, Jenkins, Gordy, and Almond, to enter into a contract. And within that contract, we should, based on our experiences, and Frank, you were spot on, that we go back to our insurance company and say, we'd like to know if it's possible that depending on cases that come up and litigation that's required, that we have the option of providing our own counsel, or are we restricted based on the policy of making sure that only your counsel that you provide to us can be used in litigation? I certainly think we should ask that question. There may be more of a cost involved in it. I don't know. But certainly, regardless of whether we do it, I think we should ask that question anyway. All right. Because, the thing. Now, the other side of it, too, is, Clay mentioned generalists. Again, do you have to get down into the 27 different points of an individual's CV in order to determine whether or not they have that skill set? I'd like to think that they've been in business. They had enough of a background that they presented in the RFP to satisfy my, curiosity, at least, that can they provide these services? I absolutely believe they can. Again, I want to reiterate that I'm going to support this, but again, it's in no way a slap in the face to Lurch Early. And I can't say it enough that firm has done an outstanding job. And we were very fortunate for the relationship for the past 5 years. But I think it's time to take a look at another fresh perspective and move forward with this. One more thing, too. I would also, you made mention of conflicts and transition. As in any business relationship, there'll be a transition period. There are things that are currently in process, all right, that would certainly need to be finished out. And there are new things that would come up that certainly might be assigned or probably would be assigned to the new law firm. So the idea would be a transition plan from our existing firm to the new one is certainly part of this whole transaction of changing law firms. So that's it. Other comments? Frank?
Yeah, I would actually like to amend this, Doug, to say that to require the firms to defend us in litigation and to have those rates in front of us, because I'm quite sure from everything that we've heard that from Lurch Early, and I haven't heard this from Ayers, but I'm quite sure that the rates are going to be different for that litigation. But I think that we should go back and have that incorporated, that would be my motion, to have both firms incorporate the rates and specific people that would defend us as a litigator, and have that as part of the contract to do, because my take, and you know, I'm as tight-fisted with the association money as anybody here, but like I say, this is deadly serious business. When you go to court, you have to go for one reason, and that's to win. And our homeowners should understand, and the people sitting up here should understand, that there is a difference between the insurance rate, which I believe is $250 an hour, and $1,000 an hour. And that's going to be a $750 an hour difference when we go to court. But when we go to court, the sole reason is to defend your rights, your money as a corporation. And I just, like I say, going through the processes that we've had, and some of these cases, so that everybody knows, are very public, and you can read them in the Bayside Gazette and the Progress and everything like that. But I will tell you, in my time on the board, there's also been cases that have been settled that haven't gone to court that are big bucks. I mean, I'm talking, you know, without giving away information, divide 250,000 by 8,500, and you see how much it cost you on your assessment potentially. And that to me is worth the difference, to have that firm defend us, to maximize our chances of winning the arguments that our counsel has given us the options, and we've taken, and we want to defend. And I think that should be incorporated, because, you know, people 3-4 months from now, you know, will be saying, well, what happened to the legal expense if we have a lawsuit? The legal expense is this. We've taken the steps necessary to maximize protection to you as a homeowner and us as a corporation. And we've incorporated it in our legal agreement.
Yeah, I would agree in principle, except I strongly believe that we don't need to change this motion. We can actually make that a term and condition when we look at the terms and conditions of the contract we would enter into.
Whatever wording puts that in there, I'm fine with. And I'm not arguing about words. It's the concept. You know, look, and I'll be extremely candid. If we go with Ayers Jenkins, I may not be on the board, but for the people that I'm leaving behind at Friends and Homeowners, I want Bruce Bright defending us. If we go with Lurch Early, I want Stan Reed. Those are the two options in my mind.
Okay. Other comments? Steve?
Doug, just to make a point, I'm just thinking about what you just said about that Frank's motion is not necessary. The motion is to approve and award a contract to the Ayers Law Firm.
Contract that has yet to be created.
Right, I understand.
Negotiated and agreed upon.
The approval is already there by the board. In other words, the motion says to approve and award a contract. To the extent we want to get to what Frank is driving at, they might be able to list Bruce Bright as the litigator and what his rate would be as a litigator, that sort of thing. But we've already approved the idea of the contract. I mean, there's a negotiation that has to take place, but the way I read it would be that Frank's motion needs to be considered vote up or down prior to or without the assumption that we could just insert it into the contract itself. So the board's action today, as your motion is worded, approve and award the contract. I understand it's a negotiation, but we're not going to get another bite of the apple in theory. We've already approved and awarded the contract. So in order to capture what Frank is driving at, I think the way I read it is that his motion needs to be, if the board is inclined to do that, to be approved rather than just approve and award the contract. I mean, I think one is a precursor to the other is really what I'm saying.
Yeah, noted. And quite frankly, right now, there's not another motion on the floor. There's a conceptual suggestion. The idea is I see this as a two-step process. Number one, we have to agree in principle that we want to move into a business relationship with that law firm. Okay. The second part of that is part of understanding how that business relationship is going to take place happens under the creation, the negotiation, and an agreement on a contract. All right. So it's a two-step. Now, all things considered, we could get to the point where we're at an impasse and therefore we can't agree on a contract. That's a possibility. I'd like to think that's not going to happen. But during the negotiation process, I'd absolutely want to include what Frank has suggested, and I support it 100%. But, you know, for the purposes of getting this process moving, I quite frankly am not want to see any changes to this motion as is. If you're concerned about the wording, one could argue that, yes, we will award a contract in due time when one is created and presented for review. All right. If you know, that's really what, if I had to have that level of detail, awarding a contract, I'm sure everybody can understand the concept. We're going to award a contract when it's available. Do we have a contract in hand? No. Part of this motion says we want to start the process of them creating a contract, because then it'll be billable hours within their own firm for somebody to create a contract. All right. Which is not going to come out of our pockets, but they're not going to, put together, I don't know how many X amount of hours at $400 or $500 an hour to create a contract that we may not decide we want to do. So the idea is conceptually, we want to get them saying, hey, we're buying in with you guys. Okay, go ahead and spend the money within your internal firm to come back to us with a contract that we can talk about. That's how I see it. Colette.
Yeah, John wasn't present when I was sharing my assessment of what the two firms had to offer. You have told the board that this is an operations issue. And so I got to assume that John may have been involved in deciding that Ayers would be the firm that is selected. But I'm going to ask you, Doug, who made that decision that Ayers would be selected? You know, I've listed what I think are very valid deficits versus assets. And the deficit list is much longer for the Ayers firm than the Lurch Early Brewer firm.
Understand the motion on
made that decision.
Understand the motion on the floor is to determine whether or not we want to make that decision. Everybody is free to, any one of us seven can bring a motion to the table, all right, to the floor and say, this is what we want to do. I happen to be the one that did that.
This is what you want us to. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there's no decision yet. Well, you know what the decision was? The decision was I looked at the two RFPs and I decided that we want to take a look at Ayers Jenkins. Period.
Okay.
That's the whole genesis of this discussion. All right. Steve, and I think we need to get moving on this. Steve, one more comment.
Doug, I have a proposed motion which I circulated to the members yesterday by email to postpone further consideration of the motion to approve and award a contract of legal services to the law firm of Ayers Jenkins, Gordy and Alman to a date certain but no later than 30 days from today. This meeting would be open to members of the association, both in person and in hybrid. The purpose, in effect, is to allow for the board to meet with the Ayers law firm representatives to discuss and address concerns over conflicts of interest. Background: the association has received two responses to an RFP for legal services. A review of the proposal by the recommended law firm, Ayers Jenkins, Gordy and Alman, states that the firm and the lead attorney for Ocean Pines is also counsel to Ocean City. The board, reviewing the provision of professional services and its good business practice, should meet with the appropriate representatives of the Ayers law firm to discuss and address the potential for a conflict of interest between the two entities. Further, while the response by the Ayers law firm states that no current representation exists between any board member and the firm, Ayers has been retained in the last few years by at least two of the sitting board members. And there's also a subject, this is also a subject for further examination by the board.
All right, so there's a motion on the floor to amend this particular motion that's already in place. Is there a second to the amended?
I'll second it.
All right, discussion.
If I may, Doug, just to.
Let's finish this up. All right, we're spending a whole lot of time on this. Let's go.
Okay, well, first of all, let me make one point. There's no reason to rush. We have a general counsel in place. We can go through the process of dealing with this. This is not a motion to lay on the table. This is not a motion to defeat Doug's motion. This is simply to say we need some time to sit down with the Ayers law firm so that we understand that if a conflict arises, how are we going to address that issue? Now, I can foresee a situation where the interests of Ocean Pines and the issues of the town of Ocean City are divergent. And this law firm represents both. That's one possibility. The other possibility is there might be issues taken up by the town of Ocean City which affect Ocean Pines. We have property in Ocean City. And that is the second area that needs to be concerned. Now, and furthermore, neither firm, by the way, disclosed any of their commercial or other business contracts, which they shouldn't have to do. I get that. But as a local law firm, any company that retains or has retained heirs that raises zoning questions or statutory questions or tax questions that'll come up either with that abut against Ocean Pines or raise that affect Ocean Pines, there's another conflict immediately in place. And I'm not saying that this is irresolvable. That's not my point. But I think we ought to know what the plan is by the heirs law firm before we agree it's time to enter into a contract. In addition, as I point out, two members of this board have retained the services of heirs law firm. I'm not looking to relitigate any of this. That's not my point. But we should recognize we don't even know whether or not those contractual relationships have been terminated by the law firm yet. So that's another question that needs to be raised. And I just think there's enough questions here without having to rush through it that we can sit down and meet with heirs so we know if a conflict arises and we don't address this problem now, we'll be left with a situation whereby heirs will come to us and say, we have a conflict, we can't represent you in this particular matter, you have to go find another attorney. Well, I mean, that's not going to work. Or your lead attorney can't handle this, we're going to give you an associate. I don't think that works either. I just think we ought to know what the rules of the road are before we enter into any sort of negotiation. This is, and by the way, the burden for this lies with the law firm. This is what a law firm with good, sound legal practices would do. And while they admit in their proposal, they will adhere to the appropriate legal principles and address any conflicts that arise. There are precious few homeowners associations that operate like Ocean Pines. We need to know this before we go any further. And that's simply the purpose. I'm not looking to obfuscate or kill Doug's original motion. I just think we need to pause and get this issue resolved before we go any further.
You know me, I tend to be personal on a few words, but I think that's what the Doug's motion brings to the table is to take all of these concerns and, you know, work with the law firm and address all of this and make sure it's part of our contract.
It's more of a technical thing, but something else. I would like the word including defense litigation defense in your motion, and I could support it. Okay. Fully, because I think that irrespective of whatever firm is in, I think we need to discuss with them up front who's going to defend us in litigation, what the rates are going to be. And then I think we go to our insurance company, which is, I believe, up for negotiation soon.
It always, well, yes.
Okay. I think we make this and then we go to insurance company and say, look, our law firm, our general counsel is going to defend us in litigation. You provide a legal defense for us. We need to square it around. So you're either going to cover it, you're going to cover it 100%, you're going to cover it partially, and what percentage, so that we can do that for good financial management and good litigation. I'll go back to, I'm good with whatever law firm the general manager wants. But whatever law firm the general manager wants should be our chief litigator in the defense of any action brought against Ocean Pines. And I think that's nothing more than good business practice.
Okay.
We haven't heard from the general manager what firm he wants. We've heard from the president of the association what firm he wants. So
John, I'll rescind Robert's rules. John, please advise. We had a discussion.
So first of all, thank you to the board. I read both. Heard several things up there, very well qualified, and I made that clear. As I sent that information on to the board representatives. From my office, I believe I could work with either one. I've worked with law firms. I believe I could work with either one. Both very well qualified. I'm working with Jeremy's on several items right now, and I'm fine with. But again, either one, if you're asking me, both are very well qualified. Either one, obviously, if you have one local and we're looking for local for whatever reasons, then obviously, you don't need me to tell you one of them is local. The HR side, on the Jeremy's side, virtually, it's no secret, in 2017, when I was in here, I asked the board, Doug, you were part of it. I know Dave Stevens was the one that pointed it out to me. I'm very happy with the HR side. I did ask that with the other firm, with Aris. They certainly have representation there also. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we've had a lot of, I'll entertain one more discussion on this proposed amendment to this motion. Anything else?
Just a question, how do we amend to get including legal defense litigation in your motion here?
Well, I will stand by what I said earlier. That type of information, that term and condition should be included in the contract and not the motion. The motion is a general approach. The contract is the detailed approach. That's my position, and I'm not changing it.
Okay, well, I'll make a second motion then to change it and we'll vote it up or down. But I think that we have to make it very clear to everybody that we want defense litigation from our general counsel.
And that's an absolute term and condition. I'm supporting it. I'm just saying not with this motion. It would be in the contract. Okay, anyway, all right, enough. I'm going to call the question on the the proposed amendment to this motion that Steve presented with regard to having us hold off on making a decision. All right, call the question. All those in favor of supporting the proposed amended language that Steve offered, please say aye.
So can you clarify that?
Steve, would you please read it one more time?
So it's just this, we're not voting on your motion?
We're not voting on my motion. We're voting on this amendment.
Okay. I'm fine.
Aye.
Voting.
Okay. All right. All those opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
Oh, abstain.
All right. All right, so the amendment is defeated. Now let's go back to the motion that's on the floor. Any further discussion on the motion as it's been presented? I'll entertain any more comments. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the motion unamended as presented, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
One. Any abstentions? Two. Okay, the motion carries. Now, as a follow-up, Frank, maybe you and I can get together. I want to make sure that when we're looking at contractual terms and conditions, that we include the things that you mentioned. And Steve, I think you had also brought up some of the issues. So I think our requirements are kind of put those down on paper as talking points to make sure that they're covered in a contractual relationship when we get to that point.
You want me to provide talking?
No, just Joe, we will just circulate emails amongst.
Oh, okay.
About that, just so we can keep it top of mind. All right?
I know if I had homework.
That's it. Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is resolution of B02. First reading, Steve.
Thank you, Doug. Motion is to amend the current resolution B02 concerning the rules of order for meetings of the Board of Directors. Purpose and effect. The proposed resolution would amend the current resolution concerning meetings of the Board of Directors, specifically addressing who may make public comments. Background is the Bylaws and Resolutions Committee, after resolution B02 sent to the board a charging document, which was brought up at the March 2023 meeting. The resolution was returned to the Bylaws and Resolution Committee to consider whether a member participating virtually be allowed to participate in the public comments portion of any board meeting. Discussion, the Bylaws and Resolutions Committee having completed its consideration of who would be allowed to make turning the proposed resolution B02 with the amendment in section 1 eligibility. It's highlighted in red that members must attend the meeting in person to make public comments.
So this is a first reading. I believe everyone has the red line copy of the document. I ask that you please review it and be prepared Stuart, please make sure that you record this as a first reading of proposed changes to Resolution B02. Next item on the agenda is first reading of an amendment to Resolution B03. Steve.
Thank you, Doug. The motion is to amend Resolution B03 to address association meetings, virtual meetings and hybrid meetings, in-person meetings and electronic or virtual meetings. Purpose and effect, the proposed resolution would amend the current B03 resolution to include requirements for virtual meetings and voting by members attending virtually. Background, the Bylaws and Resolutions Committee, after reviewing Resolution B03, sent to the board a charging document which was brought up at the March 2023 board. At that meeting, it was pointed out that the matter had been previously considered by the previous board in 2022. There was no resolution of various concerns at that time. The amended resolution addresses the requirement to hold virtual or hybrid meetings, including the general manager reporting to the board, with that the capability exists for such meeting to be held for only qualified members of Ocean Pines to be counted toward a quorum, to vote, and to fully participate in the meeting. The discussion, the amended resolution addresses the requirements necessary to hold a virtual or hybrid meeting. A report by the general manager of the board, the technical capability exists to ensure that only qualified members of Ocean Pines can be counted toward a quorum to vote, fully participate in the meeting.
All right, this is presented as a first reading, and again, as the previous one, everybody has the red line copy of the document. I ask that you review it, be prepared to discuss at the next meeting when this comes up for a second reading. Please record that we've had a first reading of Resolution B03 at today's meeting. Next item on the agenda is first reading of amendments to Resolution B05. Steve.
Thank you, Doug. To amend the.
Not have it jaded.
I'm certainly not questioning your honor, though. And the motion is to amend the current version of B05 dealing with conflicts of interest. Purpose and effect to amend B05 changes in the governing documents of Ocean Pines, as well as any changes in the Maryland statutes. Background, the Bylaws and Resolutions Committee submitted a charging document for board consideration at the March 2023 board meeting. The suggested changes to B05 were referred to council for review and editing. Council has returned the amended resolution with various changes and edits, which are in red for the board consideration. Discussion, the changes recommended by council include appropriate changes in citations to the charter of the association, as well as the bylaws of the association. Additionally, the recommended charges by council include addressing what constitutes a conflict of interest and the disclosure of confidential information. I also want the board to know that when we bring this up for second reading, I will offer an amendment to strike the language in red, which appears in section 3, policy B, confidential information. I've consulted with our counsel about that briefly, and we share the view that that sentence that was added in red does not fit under this resolution. Disclosure of confidential information is something that needs to be done, perhaps dealing with board members, that sort of thing. But this resolution deals with monetary or pecuniary advantage, and that's why that sentence really does not belong there. So when we bring this back up, I will offer an amendment to strike that.
Yeah.
Does this count as a first reading if we're going to change it?
Yeah, no, this is a first reading. So first of all, it's important that membership knows that this particular resolution was reviewed by council, as Steve had mentioned. And I also think that, Steve, your point is a very good example of why there's a first reading, right? So Steve did some additional research. So, by the way, just so you know how the process works, because we accepted this as a first reading doesn't mean it can't be changed before we do the second reading, okay? In this example, Steve's going to recommend that we strike the section that he had noted, and that's what we would vote on, okay? So I think this is a good example of how the process actually works between the first and the second reading, okay? All right, please record that the first reading of B05 was done at this meeting. Next item on the agenda, first reading for amendment to resolution B06. Steve.
Thank you, Doug. Motion is to amend the current version of B06 indemnification policy in effect to amend B06 indemnification policies, which address and update the authority for indemnification of certain individuals, the conditions for indemnification, and the possible inclusion of volunteers to be indemnified. The background is the Bylaws and Resolutions Committee submitted a charging document to the board at the March 2023 board meeting, which was then referred to council for review. The attached copy reflects the changes recommended by council, again in red. Discussion, this resolution passed in 2008, was last reviewed by the board in 2020, and the changes recommended by council include appropriate new citations to the charter, the requirement that indemnification may be accorded to those who acted in good faith and within the scope of their designated authority. It allows for possible indemnification of certain volunteers who are acting on the request of the association who have acted within the scope of that requested activity.
Okay, so again, as with the others, this is the first reading. Everybody has a copy of the marked up, the red line copy of that, and please record that we've had a first reading of resolution B06 at this meeting. Next item on the agenda, a review of resolution F02. Steve?
So,
I'm sorry, F0, no. F01, it says F02 on the agenda. It should read F01.
okay. Thank you, Doug. The Bylaws and Resolutions Committee requests the board to review resolution F01 dealing with investment guidelines to determine if it meets current association policies and requirements. The background is that explain why the board and committee wants or needs the actions to be performed. This resolution is currently due for review. A review of this resolution is scheduled for every 2 years. And the Bylaws Committee has identified 3 separate questions that need board attention. In paragraph 2A is the degree of specificity currently necessary. In paragraph 2D are the requirements of approval, review, and reporting of findings currently in effect. And paragraph 3, delegation of investment authority currently in effect.
Okay, so this has not been, it's not a first reading, it's a review. We've got suggestions from the Bylaws and Resolutions Committee on areas we need definition on. We'll certainly need to bring it up. If we make those changes, we can certainly bring it up for a first reading at the next meeting.
The only question, Doug, if I may, I think relating to both this and the charging document that follows is whether or not it's worthwhile to refer this to a different advisory committee or leave it to Monica to delve into. But as you know, a lot of this is we're trying to move backlog of matters through the process. So I would be prepared to move forward with the first reading unless I'm told that we need to get input from somebody else. I can.
Right, we can determine that between now and the next meeting.
Okay.
Certainly, if nothing needs to be changed, we can bring it forward for a first meeting, or if something does need to be changed, we provide the red line document and put it out for a first reading. Either way, we can have a first reading at the next meeting.
Okay, that sounds fun. Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is a review of resolution.
Thank you, Doug. The Bylaws and Resolutions Committee requests the board to review resolution F04 dealing with delinquent assessments, determine whether it continues to establish an effective policy for collection of annual charges. This resolution is due for review in May of 2022. The Bylaws and Resolutions Committee does note that paragraph 3A6 of the resolution requires a review of the effectiveness of the assessment collection effort provided to the board. There's no indication in board meetings that this review has been accomplished for 2022. I would assume since that time moving forward. So it's more than a year now. So.
Sorry, excuse me. Here. Okay, so again, same thing. If there's any requirements to make any changes, we can certainly do that, either that or no changes, but be prepared for a reading at the next meeting. That concludes new business. Next item on the agenda is appointments. I'll accept, there's only one today, and that is Steve Ranzel, First Term Elections Committee. I'll accept a motion to accept the appointment.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of appointing Steve Ranzel, First Term Elections Committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention.
Abstain.
Right. His appointment is approved, and I will entertain a motion for adjournment. Moved. There's a second.
Yes.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.